with no bullets. Does your wifey know you're begging for my notice? Promise you're the same, running for the meds. Sure you like my vibe, pass my candy on my wrist. Bad habits, little rabbit. Now sit down, you can have it. I see it when you walk my way. Nice big bed, come and play with me. Freak it dog, got a whole lot of love for my dog. I see it when you walk my way. Nice big bed, come and play with me. Freak it dog, now show how freaky you are.
So I'm just gonna be away for 1 hour. Please don't break anything. And I might have a surprise for you.
Give me a miracle. I need a syllable. Talking about big cash, that's the minimum. I'm done with this trash. Thought to be critical. Show me your mental state before we get physical. Pour some water in your cup, let it drip, drip, drip. Now look straight into my eyes, then you sip, sip, sip. It's about time that you shine. Take off that leash so that we can have some fun. I see it when you walk my way. Nice big bed, come and play with me. Freak it dog, got a whole lot of love for my dog. I see it when you walk my way. Nice big bed, come and play with me. Freak it dog, now show how freaky you are.
All right. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today we're talking about Trump and his military actions in Venezuela and what this means for us as Americans and what we can do about it. So in this broadcast, I'm going to show you how to contact your congressperson. And then I'm going to play some videos from some people who are speaking about this, both people in Venezuela and outside of Venezuela. So welcome in, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm your host, Tonya TKO. I am a self-love specialist. And on this channel, we use viral stories to deconstruct the patriarchal programming that has many of us disconnected from our own internal self-love. And I'm redoing my intro, trying to figure out what is it that we're going to be doing on this channel going forward. I just know that while we are in this emergency state right now, that it's difficult to talk about retreats and manifestation journals, and it's just difficult to talk about all of those things when World War III may be on the horizon. So me, I'm a life coach. I'm a certified clinical hypnotherapist. I'm currently in a master's program at an Ivy League institution, getting my master's in psychology. And last semester, I took a women and gender studies class as well as a Black studies class, and it changed my life. I realized that Blackness and womanness has been used as excuses for oppression, and that we are all living underneath overlapping systems of oppression that use different excuses at their whim to subjugate people. And that if we can work on the liberation of Black people and women, then we can uplift all people here on this earth. I'm realizing from my studies that the societies that we are living in have been constructed by men who did not mean us any good. I saw a TikTok video today. I didn't save the video because the girl was pretty much cursing and carrying on. She was like, who gives an F about Venezuela when paper towels are $12? And she was like, deodorant costs more than the federal minimum wage. And she was just going off. And I realized in my studies last semester that the abuse that we have normalized. So also, before I started this video, first of all, it was very difficult for me to get out today to do this video because I feel like we have no rest. I feel like before we can even conquer the last story, here comes another story. We're still waiting on the full release of the Epstein files. Before I did this video, I was looking at an entertainment because I was like just trying to get myself in a good spirit, a good place so that I could be strong enough to come out and do this video. Shout out where you're coming in from, by the way, so I can know what countries, what cities, what states are represented on this broadcast, because we are going to be Googling how to contact our Congress people, right? I've already made my phone calls today, and I'm going to be sending some emails. Like if you all heard the phone calls that I was making, I was like, "You're out there, you're representing me, right? So stand up." I was like, "You need to get out there, call an emergency meeting, do something." I was like, because if you're out there, look, I was going off. I went off on Chuck Schumer. I went off on Kirsten. I went off on the person who is my assembly person. But nonetheless, so as I was saying, before I started this video, I was looking at this entertainment channel that was talking about Cassie and Diddy, and Boosie was on Vlad talking about, well, if she didn't leave, she either liked it or some foolishness. And I realized that many of us don't know what abuse looks like because we are in an abusive relationship with our government. Let me plant this seed to you right here. The way that we're living is not natural. This is not the way that we were meant to be living. This has been forced and orchestrated. Ask yourself this question, right? If they cut off the supply chains for food, how will you eat? How will you eat? That's a question that you should be thinking about. If something happens and those supply chains are limited or cut off, how will you eat? The fact that most farms are privatized should be of concern to you, but it's not, because we were born into these systems that were orchestrated and we don't even realize how dysfunctional this is, that we don't have control over. I feel so angry. I feel so angry. Oh, people are shouting out their states and their cities. We got California, Philadelphia. Welcome in. Western Kansas, welcome. Because of the title of this video, they're truncating the reach of the video. So please take a few moments to like the video right now. There are 85 people on the YouTube page, 17 on the Facebook page. So I want you all, each of you, to just take a few moments to just like the video while I'm talking and while we're getting warmed up, okay? I feel so angry because if you look at the way things are constructed, right? Why do we have homeless people? Why is it that people are shamed for not wanting to spend 65 plus years working 60 plus hours a week? Why are people shamed for not wanting to go into those jobs? Right? They're like, get up off your ass and work. I work, hard work. And why is it that if we, why is it that, I don't know how to put this simply, but not only can we not build our own houses, right? Because of systems that are in place. But if we buy a house and you pay off that house, but you don't pay your taxes, what happens to that house? So is it really your house? How did we get into the systems that we're in right now? These are the questions that I've been tasked with asking. Why is it that it is against the law? So look, so you own a home, right? If somebody walks their dog on in front of your house and that dog shits and the person doesn't pick up the dog shit, you know who's going to get fined? You, right? You'll get fined for that. If the city plants a tree in front of your house and that tree was not researched well by a city planner and it burst up open through the sidewalk, who has to pay to get that sidewalk fixed? You didn't plant the tree. If you chop down that tree, guess who's going to come and litigate against you, right? I just want you to think, who is going to take the house if you don't pay your taxes on it? If you get sick and cannot work, what's going to happen to you? If you are disabled, can't work, or too young or too old to work, what's going to happen to you? Right? Why is our healthcare so expensive? The healthcare subsidies are expiring, by the way. Remember the big government shutdown? Listen, I don't know how I could ever forgive the people who voted this person into office. We do not live in free societies. We are all enslaved. And we need to wake up and pay attention. I'm going to explain to you how our government works, right? Oh, somebody says, I don't have a clue. Let's see. You don't have a clue about this. Trump doesn't need Congress to guard our borders. This wasn't a war. It's our Constitution. People like this are too stupid for me to even respond to. Like, they have been assassinating the intelligence of people in this country for decades. And then we have stupid people like this who are ignorant. They're dumb and they think that they're smart. And they come out and they start saying other people don't know. Did you know in Muslim countries taxes are illegal? Did you know that? The very first Muslim country I visited, I went to exchange and get some of the local currency. And I said, well, what is the fee that you're charging me for the exchange? And they were like, I don't understand. I'm like, the fee you're charging, what is the fee? So if I change my money here or someplace else, what is the fee? And they're like, I don't understand. They do not charge taxes in Muslim countries. It's against their code. And I was like, oh, right? In Kuwait, when you get married, the government gifts you a home with property. Listen, let's start getting into the videos. You know, I, in the past, would not have spoken as frankly and as judgmentally as I have been speaking over the past 2 days about these Trump supporters. It's just that they're so stupid. And it's not like this is just my point of view. The data shows how chronically undereducated and simple-minded and indoctrinatable these people are. Like, they're dumb. They are dumb. And far too many of them have given way to white supremacy and this faux notion that there's any type of merit or gift in whiteness. You have motherfucking recessive ass genes. Your genes are fucking recessive. This is why you don't see any black person in any country talking about any damn great replacement. You don't hear it. You don't see it because our genes are dominant. And even if we chop and screw it, cut it down, it'll still come back. Our genes are dominant. We don't have to worry about the things that your recessive genes have to worry about. And so many stupid ass people are clinging to white supremacy as as it having some sort of merit, and it doesn't. All you have is recessive genes and the faux, listen, FAUX, the faux belief of some sort of superiority, some sort of excellence that comes along with recessive genes when this is not the truth. Go look at the power, the healing, the regenerative power of melanin. You over here celebrate, and I know that that's a survival tactic because they know on some deep level, like, I don't ever have to worry about being watered down or my gene pool being deleted or erased. I don't have to worry about that because I know I know I am melanin strong, but these people are so fragile and so sensitive. And they are going around destroying the world in which we live. And it is time for us to stand up and put a stop to this, because we cannot continue to pretend as if these people have the same level of rationale that other people do, that informed people do, that intelligent people do. Ugh, gosh, these people let me. All right, let's get started with our first video. Like the dust from these troglodyte Neanderthal descendants is choking me. And then there will be people who will come out here and be like, that reverse racism. You reverse racism. To which case I say, please, just go Google what racism is, and ask Google or chat or one of these AI, whatever. Ask it whether or not a black woman has the infrastructure and power behind her to enact racism. Come on, you're silly, simple-minded goof troops. Like, I don't know how else to put it. I'm tired of protecting these people's feelings. Go educate yourself. Gosh, go educate yourself. Damn. Like, you're funking up the place. All right. Oops, where's my sound? Hold on. I'm not hearing sound. Are you? No, 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 no. All right, here. Oh, I see. They put it in a different place. All right.
This is a huge crisis for the United States of America, not just for Venezuela. And it is a huge crisis for the world because of the breakdown of that rules-based international order that has kept us from a war since World War II. Not, we've had local wars, but we've not had a world war, a war in Europe, for example. And it is a direct attack on the U.S., another direct attack on the U.S. Constitution. So don't be fuzzy about what happened here. And this would be a great moment to speak up to your Congress people, especially your Republican Congress people. The Democrats have already come out and said, excuse me, what are you doing here? But they are not in the majority. And a lot of the Republicans started out, even the far right ones started out by saying, hey, wait a second here. This doesn't look legal. And they're already starting to come around because generally wars make a president more popular, and they don't want to buck Trump and say, we're going to back Maduro on this. Because again, Maduro's a bad guy. Light up these freaking phones, because I think if you've listened to me before, you've heard me say that we're facing a crisis because Trump has gotten more and more and more and more cornered. And as I've been saying and wincing, the next 3 months, which I said 3 days ago, are going to be hideous as he and his people try to maintain control. Because it's coming down to the line here. Either they are going to grab control and turn the United States into a dictatorship, or the American people are going to take our system back, and we're going to make it based in the law again and not in personalities. And we're going to start to enforce the laws against corruption, and we're going to enforce the Constitution. And with luck, we're going to make this country and its rules and laws more responsive to everyday people.
Yes.
You can see that building. One of the reasons I highlighted the Mamdani speech yesterday, a lot of people said, well, we don't know what he's going to do. And I'm like, 100% we don't know what he's going to do. And I'm always a skeptic when a politician says they're going to do anything. But the language matters. The fact that, he's talking about using a government for good anymore, stopping corruption and so on. This is the moment for the next, like I say, 3 months is the time I give it. I'm thinking we're going to have an answer by May as to what's going to happen to the Trump regime. But now is not the time to roll your eyes and say, we always go into Latin America. The United States has a terrible history with Latin America, going back to the 1840s at least. That's a rabbit hole someday well, not even a rabbit hole. Someday I'll do a whole episode at least on that. But this is not that usual. This is an attempt to side with Russia, to overturn the rules-based international order and align the United States with Russia rather than with Europe, rather than with democracies, rather than with the idea that countries should have their own right to sovereignty. And once we have given that up, we have not only given up the sovereignty of all nations, because all it takes is somebody with more muscle to come take you over. We will also have given up a significant portion of the American Constitution and given the president the ability to take the US military and do whatever he wants with it without oversight by Congress. And so when those strikes, literally last night, I was finishing the letter and I was all set to go to bed. I wanted to go to bed earlier, but I was reading the news. And always, when I finish a letter, I always am thinking about the next one. And I was actually sort of shaping out the next two. And I saw the first video coming out of Venezuela. I remember it was 1:38, and I was like, no. And then within 10 minutes, there was confirmation, and I thought, this is it. Here we go. On that note, please speak up. This is it, and it's going to get worse. I've maintained this all along. It's going to get worse. But the vast majority of Americans want the Constitution. They want rules. They want laws that apply equally to everybody. They want to be treated equally before the law. They want to have a right to a say in their government, and they want to have equal access to resources. And my friends, that is not a radical position. That is the same position that FDR had in the 1930s. It is the same position that Teddy Roosevelt, a Republican, had at the turn of the last century. It is the same position that Abraham Lincoln took in the 1860s. That's what it means to be an American. And this is our moment to try and protect that for the 21st century. Anyway, by my calculation, Trump should be about to speak about what he's done. You can go hear what he has to say about it, but that's the backstory. That's what's at stake in the U.S. strikes on Venezuela. This is a huge...
All right. That's one video there. Let's hear from a person in Venezuela.
Today has been a very complicated day for millions of Venezuelans around the world. For people like me, born and raised in Venezuela but living abroad, and for people who are still back home. Since the U.S. military operation was carried out around 2 a.m. in Caracas and Nicolás Maduro and Cilia Flores were detained, many of us have been asking the same question. Is this really the end of the Chavista regime? A regime that has ruled Venezuela for 27 years. A regime that destroyed everything we remember. A regime that transformed one of the most beautiful countries in the world into devastation. For the past few months, the U.S. government argued that its military activity in the Caribbean, including strikes on vessels, was meant to combat narco-trafficking coming from Venezuela. They repeatedly stated that the Maduro government is illegitimate. But at the same time, they kept talking about oil and oil reserves, about how Venezuela supposedly owes some form of oil to the United States. This morning, Donald Trump spoke to the media and said that the U.S. will run Venezuela temporarily, including seizing control of the country's oil infrastructure. He also said that the U.S. has been in conversations with Delcy Rodriguez, the current vice president. On the other hand, Delcy appeared on Venezuelan television calling this an unprecedented military aggression and demanding the immediate release of Maduro and his wife. Then came one of the most disturbing statements. Trump claimed that Maria Corina Machado, the leader of the opposition...
I want you to just hear this part because there's some conflicting information that I'm hearing about this woman. So I want you to remember her name because I had to go back to this part. So her name is Maria Corina Machado. Listen to what she says about Maria.
That Maria Corina Machado, the leader of the opposition and a recent Nobel Peace Prize winner, is not popular enough to take over the country. This is the same Maria Corina Machado who has been a beacon of hope for millions of Venezuelans, both inside and outside the country. And this is despite the fact that the opposition won the 2024 election by millions of votes. Maria Corina Machado was barred from running for president, so she supported a substitute candidate, Edmundo González. Edmundo González won with 6.2 million votes. Those results were verified and recognized by much of the international community. Yet, suddenly, Trump says she lacks support or respect inside Venezuela, and instead points to communicating with Delcy Rodriguez, a key figure within Chavismo. So, what is...
I just want you to just hear, right? The person who... So, Maduro right now, they're saying is an illegitimate president because he did not win, but he stole the presidency. He has been in power for, I believe, like 27 years, something like that. He's been in power for a long time, and the country has become run down under him. I have a friend in Venezuela who has been trying to flee because things were so bad there since 2015. They've been just really bad. And So he was not even supposed to be in there. He was voted out, but he decided not to stay. He has some militia groups that go around people who are talking bad about him, like thugs sanctioned by the government.
Really happening here. If the U.S. is negotiating with Delcy Rodriguez to manage.
So Shantea, can you check and see if you're able to comment on YouTube? Because I got your message, but I also need you to send me your whatchamacallit, your URL for your page. I saw that comment from the person who was like, what does this have to do with Black people? I'm hoping that that person is a bot, because I can't imagine that any Black person would be that stupid that we would be in this country here, and this country that we have built off the backs of the blood, the toil, blood, the bodies, the cadavers of our ancestors, and then ask, what does this have to do with us, that we have a lawless president in office? I just decided to ignore that person. Let me go back here.
A key figure within Chavismo. So what is really happening here? If the U.S. is negotiating with Delcy Rodriguez to manage a so-called transition, that suggests Washington still sees the Chavista state apparatus as functioning, even while claiming that Maduro has been removed. And once again, everything leads back to oil. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves in the world, over 300 billion barrels. That is roughly the equivalent of Saudi Arabia and the United States combined. However, the oil infrastructure has collapsed. In the late 1990s, Venezuela's produced about 3.5 million barrels per day. By 2020, that production had fallen to 400,000 barrels per day. Yes, sanctions played a huge role, but this collapse was primarily caused by the Chavistas' regime corruption and mismanagement. Now, to understand why Trump keeps talking about oil, we need to look back a little bit at history. Venezuela discovered a massive oil reserves in the 1920s. That discovery propelled the country to be one of Latin America's strongest economies. At one point, the Venezuelan bolivar was nearly as strong as the US dollar. By the 1930s, 98% of the oil production was controlled by foreign companies. And in 1943, Venezuela passed a new law requiring 50% of oil profits to go to the state. Then on January 1st, 1976, Venezuela officially nationalized its oil industry, creating PDVSA and reclaiming control of the resources. January 1st, 1976, January 3rd, 2026. In the 1990s, companies like Chevron and ConocoPhillips returned to Venezuela. Then in 1998, Hugo Chavez was elected president. He politicized PDVSA, fired experienced workers, and replaced them with loyalists. That system collapsed.
Does this sound familiar? Firing qualified people and filling the positions with loyalists. So listen to how Chavez, listen.
In 1998, Hugo Chavez was elected president. He politicized PDVSA, fired experienced workers, and replaced them with loyalists. That system collapsed. In 2007, the Venezuelan government expropriated assets from companies like ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips, leading to years of legal battles and compensation claims. This is the compensation Trump is now referencing. So no, the United States does not own Venezuelan oil. This is about...
I just want to highlight a comment from someone who says, as an Arab person, this reminds me of Bush's war on Iraq, 2003. We hated Iraq president, but it went by really quickly. Let me see if I can find it on the behind the scenes. We hated Iraq president because he was a dictator, but taking sovereignty of a country is a start to hell, and Iraq was destroyed till now. So this is part of the reason that it is important to travel, to see other parts of the world, because it wasn't until I went to Nicaragua that I learned about the Sandinistas, and it wasn't until I went to Guatemala that I learned about how the U.S. had interfered in their government. So the U.S. has gone all throughout Latin America, destroying these people's countries, putting in dictators that they want to rule over these people, and then wonder why these people are fleeing from places that have been destroyed, and then try to shame them for coming here. You destroyed their country. You destroyed their system of government, their economic power. You destroyed them, and then now you're shaming them on land that they are indigenous to. This is very strange.
About reclaiming the control through force. Which brings us to the biggest question of all. Why did the narrative shift from narco-terrorism to opening supporting Maria Corina Machado to suddenly dismissing her and negotiating with the Chavista regime. We don't know what happened behind closed doors, but we do know that this is not unprecedented. For Venezuelans, yes, we dreamed of seeing this regime fall. But now we have to ask, at what cost? Today has been a very complicated day for millions of Venezuelans around.
So that's a woman from Venezuela speaking, and you heard what she had to say. I did ask my friend in Venezuela how she was doing and what was going on with her, and she sent me back a message so that I could know that she was all right, and she let me know what. All right, so this is the message that I sent her, and okay. So this is what I said to her. I said, ¿Qué está pasando en Venezuela? And she answers me back and says, U.S. Special Forces captured Maduro and his wife. They will be tried in the U.S. on numerous charges, including drug trafficking. It's still unclear what will happen, but there should be legal transition. There should be a legal transition. Last year, Edmundo Gonzalez won the presidential elections, but Maduro, with his cronies, stole the election. And I said, how do people feel? And she said, I'm happy that Maduro was removed, but I'm also worried about the nature of my country. Maduro's cronies are still in power. None of them should be involved in the transition of power. And then I said to her, entiendo. And then that was that. So I kind of got the sense that she couldn't really talk. So I'm going to send her another message today and just kind of check on her and see how things are going, see what spirits are like, see what's going on the ground. But I wanted to play a video from a person who is American, who is talking about Venezuela and what's going on over there. And so when I heard him talk, I was like, wait a minute. Honestly, I'm kind of at a loss because I am a foreigner. I don't know much about what's true or not, but we heard from a person in Venezuela. This person is outside of the situation, but let's hear what he has to say.
People of Venezuela from an Iraqi. Are you sure you want this? To the people of Venezuela who are excited, who are hopeful, who see the capture of their illegitimate president, Maduro, and his incarceration by America, special forces going into the capital and taking the president of the country away as a good thing, as a hopeful thing, as something that will lead to positive change. I hear you, I understand you, but I ask you again, are you sure that you want this? Iraq, like Venezuela, had a huge educated population, more PhDs than anyone else in
my bad.
the Arab world. Iraq had a GDP the same as Spain before the crippling sanctions that Iraq experienced, just as Venezuela has experienced. Iraq was an economy based on oil, but with a big middle class. But it also, like Venezuela, had so many poor people who had been frustrated for so long. And like Venezuela, America was there for the wrong reasons. And that's what I said in the lead up to the war in 2003 to all the Iraqis I knew who were hopeful. I said, wait, pause. Is America doing this for the right reasons? And if not, will it have the right outcome? And how I wish I was wrong about that judgment. But as an Iraqi, I can tell you that the last 20 years has been the period of most suffering that that country has ever experienced. 1 million people killed in civil war. And to my American friends, I ask you too, do you really want this? The lesson from Iraq is that when you invade a country in this way, the goodwill that you have quickly evaporates and you lose that country and potentially that whole region for a generation. Do you really want this? To the people of Venezuela from an Iraqi. Are you sure you want this? To the people.
So he's from the outside saying that that woman, the same woman that the Venezuelan woman said won the Peace Prize and has been the hope of millions. He's saying that that woman is an Israeli implant. So what is the truth? What is the truth? Like, do we know what is... I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what is true, what isn't true. I'm on the outside looking in. Somebody said that Trump pardoned, let's see.
Case of Maduro, look, it's very simple. This guy was indicted. No one ever did anything about it. He didn't think he was under threat or that the indictment was ever going to be enforced. It was enforced yesterday.
Hernandez was convicted by a jury.
I understand. You're asking me. The pardon authority is something that, I'm not involved in my role. I'm not criticizing it. I can't just comment on it because I just wasn't involved in those deliberations.
Do you support it?
I wasn't involved in those deliberations. I haven't looked at the case file. I haven't looked at the arguments made by, I've got a bunch of other things going on that are within my purview as Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, but pardons aren't one of them. So I can't comment on a case that, frankly, I'm aware of, but not deeply and familiar with, and I don't want to comment on something that I haven't had a chance to be involved in reviewing the file and the rationale behind it.
Mr. Secretary, thanks for your time this morning.
So Trump pardoned, let's see.
Tuesday morning, a man named Juan Orlando Hernandez was freed from United States Penitentiary Hazleton in West Virginia. Now, you may have heard of him. He's the former president of Honduras, and he had been sentenced in a U.S. criminal court to 45 years in prison for, according to prosecutors, quote, helping to facilitate the importation of an almost unfathomable 400 tons of cocaine to this country.
Listen.
And billions of individual doses sent to the U.S. with the protection and support of the former president of Honduras. This act of clemency, this pardoning, this freeing of a man who received millions of dollars in bribes to help 400 tons of cocaine come to the United States comes at the same time that President Trump and the Pentagon are waging this war against narco-traffickers allegedly coming from Venezuela. Strikes, military strikes that are of questionable and debatable legality. So why on earth would President Trump do this? Well, here was his explanation on Air Force One.
The people of Honduras really thought he was set up and it was a terrible thing. He was the president of the country. And they basically said he was a drug dealer because he was the president of the country. And they said it was a Biden administration setup. And I looked at the facts and I agreed with them.
So President Trump is calling this a Biden administration setup. That is not accurate. In fact, this investigation into Hernandez started years ago during the Biden administration. But then Hernandez's own brother was arrested and prosecuted during the first Trump administration. And in fact, the prosecutor of Hernandez's brother was Emile Beauvais, who went on to become President Trump's own personal attorney and is now a judge appointed by President Trump. This idea that this was a Biden setup, there's no evidence for that at all. Now, what there is evidence for is that if you have a connection to somebody in Trump's inner circle, in this case, Roger Stone, who is an on and off again political advisor to President Trump, and you convince that person to reach out to Trump and say, hey, this was all just Biden lawfare. I didn't do anything wrong. He seems to be very inclined to listen to that argument regardless of the facts, regardless of the evidence. And now we have proof that regardless of the crime, because if drugs are really such a horrible issue in this country, and they are, why would you pardon somebody who helped to bring 400 million tons of cocaine and billions of individual doses of cocaine to the United States? As Republican Senator Bill Cassidy posted on X the other day, why would we pardon this guy and then go after Maduro for running drugs into the United States? Lock up every drug runner. Don't understand why he is being pardoned.
Thank you.
Well, you're not alone, Senator Cassidy. There are a lot of people who do not understand why this happened. And the truth is, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Tuesday morning,
exactly.
a man named...
So I want you all to just keep that in mind, that while Trump is claiming that he's pardoning, that claiming that he's going after drugs, he's pardoning drug traffickers. So something is not adding up. Something is not right. Something is not right. So let's hear. Another video that I have saved. Okay, this is a video. So this is what I'm saying. The situation in in Venezuela, I honestly don't know, because listen to this guy.
Maduro's not a dictator. He's never been a dictator. The only reason you think that is because you've been getting bombarded by propaganda for the last 25 years about Venezuela.
So this guy is saying Maduro is not a dictator. I have a friend in Venezuela, and I have seen personally how she has suffered under Maduro. So I don't know what he's talking about. I'm playing this because I want you to be able to hear differing points of views. And thank you all for liking the video. Your likes has told the algorithm that the video is a great video. And so now we have about 300 people watching on YouTube, 28 people watching on Facebook. So continue to like the video, share the video, tag somebody, because I am going to be giving you the links to go to. As a matter of fact, the links are in the description of where you go to find out who your congressperson is, okay? And then I'm going to explain a little bit about our system here.
Venezuela, it's very intentional. The U.S. is involved in every other country, destroying and causing havoc everywhere it goes, trying to sap it for natural resources. But I want to touch into who's bombarding us with propaganda. Black folks have this beautiful phrase that says, all skin folk ain't kinfolk.
Why are you putting us in
We
this?
talked about the different types of power that are in every nation and every country. You have economic power, you have military power, you have media power, you have electoral power, people power, something like that. The point is that the U.S. shows up and saps all of our resources because they put so much energy into corrupting those different types of powers to overthrow their governments when they're not in agreement with the U.S. And that's exactly what's been happening in Venezuela for decades, right? A lot of Venezuelans that used to come here to the U.S. in the 80s and the 90s, they were referred to as the Dame Dos, or the Give Me Two, because that's how a lot of the people in Miami saw them as. They would go into high-end luxury stores and they'd say, give me two of everything. That was the running joke. That's also why Miami is jokingly called the capital of Latin America, because that's where all of these people who are selling out their nation were able to get a pass to go move to or send their kids to university. And Miami was the base for a lot of that. A lot of Cubans are in Miami, obviously because of proximity to Cuba, but also because of the wet foot, dry foot policy, that they were able to get citizenship, they were able to get a ton of resources. That's very different from Mexicans and Central and South Americans that move to the US because they have to migrate on foot. They have to go through terrible conditions to do that because they come from rural, low-income places. Whereas a lot of the initial Cubans that moved here were the upper class and the middle class that moved out here in the late 50s after the Cuban Revolution kicked off. Gloria Estefan's a perfect example of this. Gloria Estefan is seen as a gatekeeper of Latin music for decades here in the US. But the reason that she's been put in that position is because she knows her role and she knows what role to play. Most people don't know Gloria Estefan's dad was a guard, was a private police for Batista, who was the dictator of Cuba before Fidel and Che's revolution. So she got a fast pass through her dad. Not only that, her dad was a very active participant in the Bay of Pigs invasion. So their kids are the ones that get to reap the benefits of being the cultural controllers for Latin America. That's why you get Univision and Telemundo that are co-opted and right-wing, because that's who's running this shit. That's also why you get Romeo Santos and Prince Royce and the other Aventura dudes. They're right-wing. They're surrounded by right-wing Latino-Americano gusanos, as we like to call them, or gusanex to be inclusive. So it's no surprise that this is who we're dealing with, but they're the ones that have been bombarding us for a long time with all their right-wing propaganda in Spanish and in Latin America. So don't fall for the bullshit, and at the end of the day, que traigan verdura de bienestar, all them haters. Peace.
Oh, okay. You know, I had to start tuning him out
because you've been getting bombarded by propaganda for the last 25 years.
I started tuning him out because I personally have a friend in Venezuela and I saw how she suffered. Like, they were eating dog food. Like, there was no food on. She showed me pictures. There was no food on the shelf. They had to eat. I don't even want to talk about it because it's terrible. But they had to do what it is that they had to do to survive, and it was a terrible, terrible time. And so, whatever he's saying, okay. Like, just even the look on his face, I don't know what's going on with him. So I just wanted you all to hear different people's point of views because it's not as cut and dry as maybe some may say it is. So right now we're going to play a video from Todd Stoermer, who's a resistance history teacher.
The Democratic response to Trump's attack on Venezuela.
This is a man who had to flee America because in teaching real history, they threatened his family. Like, they threatened his children. They said he was an enemy of the United States. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, why? What? So he had to flee. He's teaching in Denmark now. And so I see that when I try to teach real history here, that I'm going to have an exit plan as well. So we'll see what's going to happen because, like I said, I'm going to create my syllabus and I'm going to create a multi-headed dragon that cannot be cut off. And then what I will do is I will leave my money in an endowment so that the teachings can go on. Fuck with me if you want to, motherfuckers. Fuck with me if you want to. All right, let's continue going forward.
The Democratic response to Trump's attack on Venezuela has been uniform and uniformly bad. They've all landed in the same place. This may violate the constitutional balance of powers, so the president owes Congress an explanation. Condemn Maduro, salute the troops, invoke the Constitution. Full stop. Not because the Constitution doesn't matter, 6-7, but that argument is what you reach for when power is already moving and you're unwilling to interfere with it. Hey folks, I'm Todd Stoermer. I'm an American scholar of resistance history at the University of Southern Denmark and the author of A Resistance History of the United States. Marco Rubio and the rest of the regime understand all this. They don't deny the action. They're reframing it in real time. Not a military engagement, they say. It's a law enforcement.
Someone is saying he's talking truth and you are laughing. Look, I'm not in Venezuela. I have somebody on the ground in Venezuela. And I have known for over 10 years how destructive Maduro has been. So look, we have MAGA who support Trump. And we see that Trump is a wannabe dictator. So there are going to be different people who feel different ways. I played the man. I gave people an alternative that other people are saying out there. So as a matter of fact, you don't look. I've been putting people on mute, but for some reason, it's like the platform has been blocking people when I mute them. So if you have been blocked by me wrongly, please let me know and I'll help you out. But if you talking junk on my broadcast,
The Democratic response to Trump's attack on Venezuela has been uniform and uniformly bad. They've all landed in the same place. This may violate the constitutional balance of powers, so the president owes Congress an explanation. Condemn Maduro, salute the troops, invoke the Constitution. Full stop. Not because the Constitution doesn't matter, 6-7, but that argument is what you reach for when power is already moving and you're unwilling to interfere with it. Hey folks, I'm Todd Stoermer. I'm an American scholar of resistance history at the University of Southern Denmark and the author of A Resistance History of the United States. Marco Rubio and the rest of the regime understand all this. They don't deny the action. They're reframing it in real time. Not a military engagement, they say. It's a law enforcement operation. No war powers, therefore no congressional role.
listen.
And that reframing works precisely because no one is trying to stop anything while it's happening. It's a pattern. It's how this works. Every authoritarian regime learns the same lesson, and they learn it early. Don't announce war, redefine violence, don't seize power openly, fragment it, outsource it, normalize it, exploit the weakness of opponents arguing about process while you're creating facts, new realities on the ground, and then make them chase you to catch up with that new reality. Resistance history is crystal clear on this point. When power grabs begin, legalism without obstruction, actual obstruction, is just surrender. Demanding explanations from an authority that doesn't recognize your legitimacy in the role is not opposition, it's ritual. I've spent years studying how resistance actually works, how people move from petition to opposition to protest to direct action when the usual channels fail, when the institutions they have trusted fail. But that movement requires something Democrats seem incapable of recognizing: when they have failed. Even especially the ones they are a part of, the ones that they have had a hand in undermining. What they're doing is not reinforcing faith in institutions, faith in our constitutions. It's a willing refusal to see what's actually going on right in front of them.
Yep.
And it's worse than mere failure. They need to impeach. They need to push legislation. They need to take every procedural step available, even the ones that will fail, and if they can't find any of them, make up some new ones.
Yep.
Because the measure of resistance has never been about winning. The measure is whether you push back. It's the resistance itself. It's the word. How do you stop a ball rolling downhill, crushing everything in its path? Not through persuasion. This is what the disunionists recognized in the 1850s when they knew that the government, the Congress, the Supreme Court will never do anything to end slavery. The Constitution is the enemy. You must step outside of it and step in front of that damn ball. You have to slow abusive authority down. You have to make it pay a cost.
Yes.
Spend resources. Pay attention. Whether you force the regime to work for every inch.
One of the things that I like about Tad Stoermer is that he talks about getting active. He doesn't just talk about, you know, because he has studied revolution. Like somebody came on my Facebook page today and they were like, oh, if you're covering the passport bros, you need to equally as hard cover all these rich and powerful men who went to Jeffrey Epstein's island. And I was like, you know, I answered him back and I was like, you know, when you go to apply for your PhD, you have to have a really narrow area of focus. And that's the narrow area. And I'm like, for me, what it is that I am currently researching is the manosphere, including MRAs, PUAs, incels, and passport bros. This is what I am currently researching. That is my area of focus. Other people, different area of focus. So like tell those people who are passionate about that to focus on that other stuff. This particular guy studied resistance history. And it's very intriguing, the stuff. I can understand after hearing some of the stuff that he was talking about and how we need to go out there and people are going to have to risk. We're going to have to risk arrest and among other things. I can see why the U.S. government was afraid of him and yeah, let's go.
Instead of just handing it to them while you drag.
If you go to my, the page, if you go to my page, Tonya TKO, on YouTube, I'll put the link of this video in the description, but I also have a link to him on my, what do you call that thing? My post page on YouTube. So, yeah.
Strongly worded social media posts. By channeling all opposition into their performance of opposition, they're not just failing to resist, they're absorbing resistance. They're neutralizing it. They're providing a pressure valve that protects the regime from actual obstruction. The function is the same whether they intend it or not. And here's what I can't get past. These are people who asked for these jobs. I worked on these campaigns. I worked in the House and Senate. I know how these folks work. They campaign on the promise that they will do something with the power of the office, with the consent of the government that you are lending to them. They win, they get into the office, they're there, and now they insist they can do nothing, they are powerless. Then step aside. This is a serious time requiring serious people who in fact want to do something, and not just be something. People who will use the position. And if you won't use it, let someone else try. Step aside. Because holding the seat while refusing to act isn't representation, it's just occupation. Democrats are betting everything on a referendum on Trump. What if it turns out to be a referendum on people who do nothing with the power that they've been given? On an opposition that spent more than a year demonstrated they would do nothing with the authority.
Someone in the comments said the Second Amendment was made for this. Yeah, but most of the people in this country with the most guns are the ones on the same side of this damn dictator. These people are wasting, this is what I'm saying, they've been fooled and they don't have the capacity. It seems like they just don't seem to possess the capacity, go ahead and like the video, to be able to see what is going on right in front of their damn eyes.
They had, and then ask you to hand them more of it? Why would anyone trust that a majority would act when a minority wouldn't even fight? This is what collaboration looks like. This is straight out of resistance history. It's not enthusiasm for the regime. It's not open support, just the steady prioritization of institutional safety, of their own safety in the establishment, instead of confrontation, of being something over doing something. Vichy France maintained the forms of French governance while substantively serving German occupation. And what we're watching is the same dynamic. The forms of opposition, statements, resolutions, fundraising emails, while the abuse of authority proceeds unimpeded. We're a year into this, 10 months from the midterms. And as this escalation unfolds, no one in the opposition is willing to stall appointments, grind procedure to dust, force conflict.
Elle, I don't know if you're watching passively or not, but we have some trolls in the chat and I need you to ramp it up, okay? I just had to block one person. I need you to just really have these fingers moving fast.
Confrontation or make governance impossible while accountability remains an open question. Congressional minorities have tools. Procedural obstruction, denying unanimous consent, quorum disruption. The Senate can be ground to a halt by a minority willing to sacrifice goodwill. And they are choosing, actively choosing, not to use any of that. This is what I say when I talk about the Constitution being a ceiling of action rather than a floor. Democrats are playing by rules that have been thrown out.
Listen.
And they keep playing. They're trapped inside a mythology that tells them the founding framework will save them if they just keep faith with it, that the ghost of James Madison will come riding to save them, when it's really the ghost of Patrick Henry and his hatred of this Constitution and its weaknesses, and he's coming to haunt them. The framework was never self-enforcing. It never saved anyone. Every single right we have exists because someone at some point was willing to disrupt the machinery that threatened it. From Patriot Committees of Correspondence, to the anti-federalists, to anti-slavery networks, to the radical Republicans who impeached a president for obstruction and then override every single veto to get done what they needed to get done, the lesson was the same. You do not wait for the next election because you have now, and that's the only moment you can count on. So you interfere, you obstruct, you make the exercise of illegitimate power as difficult and as costly as possible, even when you lack the votes to stop it outright.
Yes.
What we have now is not opposition, it's commentary. And commentary has never resisted anything. Your member of Congress is on the Hill or back home right now. Either way, they're reachable. So do this. Call them, write them, roast them on social media where they seem to love hanging out. Tell them to lead or get out of the way, because the only thing they're doing right now is following. And they're only following each other in circles. Alonzi.
Yes. Yes. He wrote a book. When this book comes out, we need to do a book club around it so we can read it together, because I think it's going to be a good book. This guy seems like he does not have a lot of the fears that some other people have. And I hope to one day be able to be a contribution to society in the ways that a person like him has been for me. Okay, so let us get into a quick little movement break. I set my timer up wrong, so I don't really know how long we've been sitting here, but I can feel it that we've been sitting here for a minute. So we're going to take a movement break. We're going to move our bodies a little bit, and then after that, I'm going to show you the websites that you need to go to in order to contact your congressperson. And then we're going to go from there. Okay, so let's get to the music. I want something. All right, come out of your seat. Something.
Turn me up. I like my money like I like my green face card. Never decline of what I mean.
Oh wait, did we play this yesterday?
Make a scene. Only time you hear my voice is when they play me on the screen.
Oh, we played this yesterday. Let me play another one. Let's see what this one is. Okay.
What you gonna do for me, Ain't my daddy, but he calling me baby. Talk ain't cheap, so he know he gotta pay me. Chauffeur got him driving Miss Daisy. When it shot, but couldn't play me. Money long, just like my bundles. I ain't crying in the back of no Hummer. Few racks in the lip up, huh? Few stacks, he might get my number. Click, click, get the dots on, baby. Put some heat on it, now she hot, ooh, baby. Screaming for that like Stacey Dash. Daddy check my fit, got expensive on the top. To it, who is you? Why you crying, girl, he treat you like a fool. He be lying while he out here doing him. Think it's time that you show him you a pimp. Ain't no ties, try to lie. He ain't mine, no. He ain't mine, no. Ain't no ties, try to lie. He ain't mine, he ain't mine, no. Don't know your name, but I heard you be talking like you got it and you don't. Don't care about what you did back then, boy, what you really own. Can you make it flippin' and still give me what I want? Or is you out here capping like them in they song? Tricking is a sport and baby, you ain't gotta play. Never think it's sweet, I'm more like sour lemonade. Running down the court, but baby still ain't learned the game. Got it out the mud and ran it up off my own ties to it. Who is you? Why you crying, girl, he treat you like a fool. He be lying while he out here doing him. Think it's time that you show him you a pimp. Ain't no ties, try to lie. He ain't mine, no. He ain't mine, no. Ain't no ties, try to lie. He ain't mine, he ain't mine, no.
All right. Yeah, that was nice. That was nice. Okay. Whew. Whew. All right. Now, oops. Reset. All right. We're going to give, what time is it? All right. 30 minutes. All right. Thank you all so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Now let's get into how do you contact your senators? So let's talk about the United States and who can declare war, how war is declared. I looked this up on just to kind of give a refresher because they purposely don't really drill this into us in school because this is things that they really don't want us to know. Nowadays, kids can't even read an analog clock, like the one that has the whatchamacallits on it. They can't even read the arms. They don't know what's going on. They can't write cursive. They don't even have recess in art and music. And it's like people are just other countries are passing us by who are investing in their citizens. And we are sitting here thinking that we're exceptional and we're getting left in the dust. So I'm going to show you the conversation. Yeah, exactly. Cory Booker put on that diaper and had us rooting for him, standing up there with his filibuster. But when all was said and done, what did he really do? What was done? So, all right. So I asked AI to explain Congress to me, right? And this is what AI says. Okay. Congress is the legislative branch of the United States federal government established by Article 1 of the Constitution. Its primary job is to write, debate, and pass the laws that govern the nation. The system views Congress as a two-chamber legislature, meaning it's split into two distinct groups that must work together in order to get anything done. So the two groups are the lower house and the upper house. The lower house is the House of Representatives. And so each person, each state has at least one house person depending on the size of the state. And the Senate, the Senate is considered the upper house. It represents the states equally every state has 2 senators regardless of size. So the House of Representatives, they serve 2-year terms, which means they are almost always constantly up for re-election. That really matters. And then when it comes to the Senate, they serve 6-year terms, which are staggered, so that only about 1/3 of the Senate is up for election every 2 years. Okay, so primary powers and duties. The Constitution grants Congress several specific enumerated powers, including making laws. No federal law can exist without being passed by both the House and the Senate. The power of the purse. Congress controls all federal spending and has the sole power to levy taxes and borrow money. Declaring war. Please pay attention. Donald Trump did an illegal action. He does not have the ability to participate in war on another country. While the president is the commander in chief, only Congress has the formal power to declare war. Oversight. Congress checks the other branches by holding hearings and investigating the executive branch to ensure laws are being followed correctly. Advise and consent. The Senate must approve high-level presidential appointments like the Supreme Court justices and ratify international treaties. How a bill becomes a law, you can look up all of that other stuff. It's out there, right? All right. So I have the links to these pages in the description. For the House of Representatives, if you Google, how do I find out who my congressperson is, right? You'll see that there's house.gov, find your representative, and then there's congress.gov, and there's also, let me go back. There's also ussenate.gov, okay? Okay. So, I want some of you to give me, so remember, there's the lower house, which is the House of Representatives, and then there's the upper house, which is the Senate. Both of these together are called Congress, okay? So I want some people out there to throw out your state. I don't want you to throw out your zip code because we're on the internet, but when you go to a website like this, it's going to ask you if you want to find your members. And what you can do is you can put your zip code, your address in there, or you can just put your state. So if I put New York, it's going to come up with a lot of different people for New York, right? Hold on, I believe it's the House that comes up with a lot of different people, but let's see. Because according to what it is that we've read, the Senate has 2, each state has 2. And the House of Representatives has 1 to 2. So you see, when you come here now, it has New York broken up. You see this? You see this thing right here in black with the little, I guess the little dick hanging down at the bottom? That little dick at the bottom is New York City, and all of this up here is New York State. So what they are showing here on the side is that there are many different Senate. I personally don't understand why there's so many people on here. But you see, so I don't understand. It says possible members. What I'm thinking is that you know what? I'm going to ask ChatGPT. So we have, because I saw Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. You see, Representative number 19, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So she's representing New York. And so I'm going to ask Gemini about this because I don't understand. Okay, give me just 1 second. Okay. I thought Senate only had 2 state reps. When I look on congress.gov, there are over 20 Why? Let's see what AI has to say about this. And you need to double check the things that you get from AI. Look in more than one machine. So let's see. All right. That's a very common source of confusion. The reason you are seeing so many names is likely because the difference between US senators and state senators. Oh, shoot. I didn't realize that. The federal versus state distinction. The system distinguishes between two different levels of government that both use the title senator. Federal level US senator, this is what most people mean when they talk about Congress. Every state, including New York, has exactly 2 US senators who work in Washington, D.C. State level senators, the New York Senate, this is the local legislature that works in Albany, New York, and has 63 state senators. Each represents a small district within the state, similar to how House members represent small districts. Okay. What's going on in the chat? What's happening? That I have to look at the chat and see that who's being distracting, what's going on? Because we're talking about something very important right here, and I'm learning as we go along. I'm not seeing this person's comments on my screen. I don't know if it's because they are... Oh, I do. When I block somebody on the broadcast chat, does it block them forever? Whew, I got to contact the company to see how to get people unblocked from that. Okay, so we have state senators, and then we have I remind you of Chloe Bailey. My goodness. You talking about Halle Bailey's sister, the one with all them yams in the back? Child, I don't know if I'm on that level of yammage. But nonetheless, yammage that do damage. I love how that rhymes. I got bars. You know, I can't see her on the screen. I think the last time that I put her in a little quiet time, it just never allowed her to come back onto the broadcast. But nonetheless, so state level, this is local legislation that works in Albany, New York, and has 63 senators. Each represents a small district within the state, similar to how House members represent small districts. Why Congress.gov shows many names? It says here, current plus former members by default. Congress.gov often shows historical lists. It includes every person who has ever served as senator, blah, 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 the whole legislation, the rule of 3. Okay, so let's see, because there's this, let's see. Okay, so all of these say to present. So these are all of the people who are currently serving. So it's not showing former ones here. But when I did look up for a list of all New York senators, it did show me people all the way back in time, because apparently we're like in our 119th Congress. So there's that. Then there is here, find my senator, ussenate.gov. So, oh, you can't see here. Let's see, U.S. Senator. All right. So it says here, choose a state. Somebody give me your state. Okay, I'm going to choose Georgia. I'm going to choose Geogra. So these are the 2 senators that are in Georgia. We have Raphael Warnock. Like, you probably have heard these names in the media. And then we have Jon Ossoff, 2 Democrats in Georgia, right? And then there's the contact information right here. So what you do is you call them up and you leave them a message. There's also ways that you can contact them via email. Let's click on this. So this will take you, I guess this will take you to their personal or their professional page, and then you'll see some of their posts, etc. And then let's click on contact. And then share your opinions. And then there's Atlanta and Washington, D.C. Are you all seeing what I'm seeing on the screen? Okay. And then you can see that you can share your opinions. Let's see. And then you can write to them. All right. Give me another state. Give me another state, please. Someone in the comments, give me another state. We're going to go back and we're going to check. All right. So ussenate.gov, well, the website is senate.gov. They will tell you who your senators are. House.gov will tell you who your House of Representative members are. When you go to congress.gov, it'll show you everybody. So all three of those links are in the description. All right. But I'll put them in the, so this is everybody. Congress.gov will also show you who the, okay, we're going to look up Ohio. So congress.gov is right there. Then we have, let me close this. Then we have senate.gov, which will tell you who your state senator is. Those are the two people. And then we have house.gov. Where's house.gov? Let's go to house. Let's just type it in. House.gov. All right. Oh, I just want to find there's senate.gov, there's congress.gov, and then let me Google how do I find my House of Rep person? Okay. Here, house.gov, find your representative. All right, then it'll lead to this page. All right, so I've put all of these in the comments. So we have Ohio, California, and Illinois. So what we're going to do is we're going to go, so I want you to contact the people on the state level, the federal level, and then I want you to contact, I copied it and pasted it in the beginning of the broadcast. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. I put his information. Give me 1 second. Let me find this again for you all because I had it up on my screen, but where's the woman that we were watching? It was in her video. Let me go to liked videos and see if it's there. Yeah, here it goes.
This is a huge crisis for the.
All right. So in her comments, I went to her comments, and because people were like, "Oh, what is going on?"
This is a huge crisis for the United States of America. Not just.
If every parent stood on business like this.
This is a huge crisis for the United States of America. Not just for Venezuela. And it is a huge crisis for the world because of the breakdown of that rules-based international order that has kept us from a war since World War II. Not, we've had local wars, but we've not had a world war, a war in Europe, for example. And it is a direct attack on the U.S., another direct attack on the U.S. Constitution. Oh. So don't be fuzzy about what happened here. And this would be a great moment to speak up to your Congress people, especially your Republican Congress people. The Democrats have already come out and said, excuse me, what are you doing here? But they are not in the majority. And a lot of the Republicans started out, even the far right ones started out by saying, hey, wait a second here, this doesn't look legal. And they're already starting to come around because generally wars make a president more popular and they don't want to buck Trump and say, we're going to back Maduro on this. Because again, Maduro's a bad guy. Light up these freaking phones.
All right. Light up the phones. All right. So I put the phone number for, I put the phone number for all of Congress members, Chuck Schumer and Mike Johnson. I put them in the comments, so you have those there. So let's go ahead and look up. We had Ohio, California, and I believe Florida had put. So remember, there are two different branches of Congress: House of Representatives and the Senate. So on the House level, we're going to look. So this you need to look up by zip code, right? Let me get a random zip code in Ohio. Ohio zip code. Okay, 43001. All right, copy. And then we're going to go back over here into house.gov, and we're going to put this in, and we're going to see who the House of Representatives member is. So for Ohio, your House of Representatives member is named Troy. This needs to be bigger for my eyes because, child, I cannot. Let me see if I could do a control plus. Okay, yes, there we go. Okay, his name is Troy Balderson. Okay, Troy Balderson is over the Newark area in Ohio. Let's go over to congress.gov. We'll put in that same zip code, and then we'll see. Oh, that's not. You know what? Let's put in Newark, Ohio. Oh, we just need to put in Ohio because this is by, let's, okay. No, congress.gov does both of them. So why is it not? Oh, hold on. Let me go back. Here, let me put in the zip code. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is congress.gov. This is going to show the state. And oh, Ohio must be much smaller than New York because there's only 3 over here. All right, so we have Republican Representative Troy Balderson. We have John Husted. Is that his name? Husted? And then we have Bernie Moreno. Okay, so we have Republican. Oh, wow. Poor you all. All right. Other people that I saw. So we had Ohio. We also had California. I'm sure California has a lot. So for California, I just want a random zip code. Let me just do California zip code. All right. 90001. Let's look up 90001. You all see, I just want you to just take the time. This is why I'm taking the time to do this, so that you can see that that it's not difficult to do, that you can do this yourself. So if we go to congress.gov and we put in that zip code up here, oh, we need to go back to the main page and then put in the zip code right here. And then let's see. So these are the members in California. Okay. So we have Robert Garcia, we have Sidney Dove, Democrat, Alex Padilla, and we have Adam Schiff. Okay. And so we can call one of these people. We can call Alex Padilla. Let's call copy. And then I'm going to go over to the phone line so that you can see what the process is like, because tomorrow these offices are going to be open. And I want you to take your time tomorrow to call these people and start complaining. Start telling them that you don't want this, or tell them how you feel. Okay? So we're going to call Padilla real quick and see. It doesn't matter if your governor is Republican, you need to make a joyful
Hello,
noise.
this is Senator Alex Padilla. My Washington, D.C. office is currently closed. The office is open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please call back during normal business hours. It's an honor to serve you in the U.S. Senate, and I appreciate your call.
So I just want you to see how easy it is. What you need to do is you need to light up their phones, even if they're Republican, even if they're trash. They need to know that they need to be getting millions of phone calls so that their phones are ringing off the hook, so that we make it uncomfortable for them, so that they know that this is not something that we want. I'm going to go back to the page and I'm going to click on Alex Padilla, and then I'm going to click on his website. And then you see this takes me to his website, and you can write to Alex. So I'm going to show you how I got here. I was on congress.gov. This is the page I was on before. Then I clicked on Alex Padilla, and then it took me here, and it has his telephone number in DC, but these people also have in the state that they're in, right? They also have offices in the states that they're in. So you should be able to see a California number as well. So let's click this, and let's see, write to Alex. You see all of these office phone numbers that he has? Look, he has a whole bunch of office phone numbers. So there's a Fresno office, San Francisco, Sacramento, Los Angeles. Let's call Los Angeles. This is a 310 number. I don't want to do all of that. I just want to copy, cancel. I just want to. So if you do this from your phone, you'll be able to just, here, copy, and let me call his California office.
Thank you for calling the office of U.S. Senator Alex Padilla. We appreciate you taking the time to reach out. If you're calling to register an opinion, you can always share your thoughts through the Contact Me page on the Senator's website at padilla.senate.gov. If you would like to leave a message here, please do so after the tone and include your name and zip code. If you're a California resident and need help with a federal agency, you can find information to assist you at padilla.senate.gov under Services. If you have an existing case or need to contact our constituent services staff, you may send an email to casework_padilla@padilla.senate.gov. Please be sure to provide your contact information and the best number to reach you. If you would like to leave a message here, please provide a brief explanation of your issue and your contact information after the tone. Thank you for calling.
Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
Hello, my name is Tonya, and I represent Acton, zip code 93510, and I want to find out what you're going to do about Trump's lawlessness. How are you going to pull him into oversight? What are you going to do to stop this that's going on? We, the people of the United States, do not want this. The people of California do not want this. If you are our voice in the Senate and you represent us, then you need to speak for us and let it be known that the people do not want this. Thank you. All right. So there's that. Let me listen, I used to live in Acton, California. That's where I was at when I had my my displacement. And so let me go over here back to senate.gov. And let me see where, oh, this is, let me look up New York. New York. New York, USA. But remember, if you want to get the person on the state level, you need to go to senate.gov, which is this one. So let's go back and go to New York. And then you see for New York, we have two right here, which is Chuck Schumer and Kirsten, right? This is Chuck Schumer's number. We've seen him on TV, so we know who he is, right?
Hi, it's Senator Chuck Schumer, and thanks for calling my Washington, D.C. office. For general office information and hours of operation, please press 1. For assistance with a federal agency, please press 2. To share your opinion with me, please press 3. If you prefer to speak directly with a member of my staff, please press 4.
I'm going to press 4 for a real person.
To leave a comment on a legislative matter, please.
You know what? Let me leave it on the other one because I left one earlier. I left one earlier on
Hi,
option 4.
it's Senator Chuck Schumer, and thanks for calling my Washington, D.C.
Let me do 3.
To leave a comment on a legislative matter, please visit schumer.senate.gov. Click on Contact and submit your comment electronically. You may also press any button to leave a message. After the tone, please be sure to leave your name, phone number, zip code, and a brief message.
Record your message at the tone. When you are finished, hang up or press pound for more options.
Charles Schumer. My name is Tonya, and I am a resident of New York. And you are in the Senate representing me. And I need you to let my voice be known and to be heard with President Trump that we are not down for these Venezuela strikes, that this is lawlessness. And I want to know, Charles, what is it that you're going to do? What are you going to do to represent the people of New York to let this administration know that this is not something that we want? We do not want to be at war. We were promised that we were not going to go to war. And then you know what? As a matter of fact, because I left you a message earlier today, and I didn't get a chance to tell you about how I feel about you not supporting Mom Donnie, but that's another story. But listen, this is part of the reason that I'm so aggressive on this call, because I don't know whether or not you're a friend of the people, and whether you are or aren't has no bearing on this matter. I'm a New Yorker, and I'm telling you that I want you to lift your voice, and I want you to use every action in your power to stop this madness that is happening with Trump, Venezuela, these strikes, and us being pulled into a possible World War III. We do not want this. I am a voter, I am a tax-paying citizen, and I am telling you full right, I do not want this, and I want you to do something. When I see you up there on the TV, I want to see that you are representing my. Oh,
for a recording.
Okay.
To send this message, press pound or hang up. Your message has been sent.
All right. So there's that. Listen, I'm going to call back. I'm going to call back because I didn't get a chance to finish my message. I didn't get a chance to finish.
Hi, it's Senator Chuck Schumer, and thanks for calling my Washington. To leave a comment on a legislative.
I got cut off on my last message. I was saying, when I see you up there on the TV, I want to see you speaking the words that New Yorkers are feeling. And New Yorkers are not feeling this war. We are not feeling what Trump is doing to take our focus away from the Epstein files. We know that there's something fishy going on. And listen, you didn't speak for us when Mom Donnie came and it was time to support him. You didn't speak up then. So I am demanding that you speak up now and let our voices be heard that we do not want this. That is all.
To send this message, press pound or hang up. Your message has been sent.
All right. So listen, I want you all to make a joyful noise. And I'm going to call back Monday. I'm calling back. So I just wanted you all, I want their phone lines. I want their mailboxes to be full. I want them to have no peace and no rest. And I want them to know that if they're not going to represent us, let me call him back and tell him that if he's not going to represent us, that I'm going to run.
Hi, it's Senator Chuck Schumer, and thanks for calling to leave a comment on a legislative.
Lastly, I did think of one more thing. Chuck, if you are not going to represent us in the Senate in the ways that we need you to, then that means that we need to start running, or we need to vote you out and get somebody else in there who will. Because honestly, to be quite frank with you, I didn't like the shenanigans that you pulled with Mom Donnie. So there's a part of me in my heart of hearts that feels like you don't need to be up there anyway. So just say the word. Like, if you don't want this position, just let us know. Like, if you're not going to represent us, let us know so that we can run, so that you can be outseated, so that you can be voted out. Because if you are not going to be the voice of the people, then the people need a new voice. That is all now. That is all. All right. I said all that I needed to say. I said all that I needed to say. So I want you all to use your voice, your power. The way that this country works is we have people who are in Washington, D.C. that represent us. And because all of our voices are consolidated into one person who's supposed to be speaking for us there. Nonetheless, listen. Okay. So I have to get off because I have a class that starts at 7. I am taking African American Studies. I'm taking African American Studies with a professor who teaches on Instagram, and I started going to his. If you want to know more information about that, but it starts at 7 o'clock, so I need to get my computer up and running, and I need to do all of that. So listen, go out there and love one another. Most importantly, love yourself. Let's hear some self-love lessons. Let's type SLL and let me see your self-love lessons. I'm going to start pulling up. I'm going to get my laptop so I can start pulling up the broadcast, because he's going to start and I don't want it to start without me. But I don't want to not get your self-love lessons. So let me see those self-love lessons. Because he starts right on time, and I'm not playing that not being their business. Let me get my recorder ready so I can record my lesson so it can transcribe it into AI for me. Let me get them self-love lessons, SLL, and then type out your self-love lesson. My self-love lesson for today is about realizing my power, the power in numbers, realizing that I make a difference and that I need to hold these people to account. All right, it's getting ready to start, y'all. Speak up and own my power. I love that. I would stay on longer, but I didn't budget my time well. My voice is enough to reverberate through the world. Yes, absolutely. All right, let me get on to my lesson. I will see you all.